9. The leader of the Central Religious Organization allowed Bhikkhunis to establish a Department of Bhikkhuni Affairs as part of the Department of Bhikkhu Affairs of Vietnam Buddhist Sangha. This is great achievement and also a landmark in the history of Vietnamese
that extol the military might of generals and accord leadership status to the victors. Exemplary political leadership in Buddhist understanding is not associated with aggression. On the contrary, a virtuous ruler is exhorted, gentle, moderate, and restrained. At the same time, a ruler or political leader must be confident in standing up for principles and speaking out to defend what is right. Given these guidelines, it is clear that even a person who holds no formal rank or position may be regarded as an exemplary leader on the basis of his or her personal qualities and ethical integrity. Another archetype of exemplary leadership is the bodhisattva, who strives to liberate all from suffering. In fact, may be a more apt model of leadership for women than the ideal ruler. Although rulers are largely absent in Buddhist texts, there are numerous examples of female bodhisattvas in Mahayana Buddhism. For example, is revered by enlightened activity and saw as the female archetype of learning. A bodhisattva is an all-knowing being who wishes to free all suffering and aspires become a fully awake Buddha in order to do so. The bodhisattva is the epitome of selflessness, being dedicated to the welfare of others, and even willing to postpone his or her own liberation to help relieve the sufferings of others. Any human being can resolve to become a bodhisattva by generating these selfless aspirations. Of course, some may critique this from a feminist perspective and say, well, being selfless hasn't always worked well for women, but that's another paper. On the next page, the most famous Buddhist woman at the time of Mahapajapati, the Buddha's stepmother and auntie, who became the founder of the Bhikshuni Sangha, the order of Buddhist nuns. Skipping to the end, Mahapajapati was widely for leadership of the Bhikshuni Sangha and for her spiritual attainments. An exemplary leader to the end, she eventually achieved in liberation or nirvana. Another woman leader in Buddhist history was Sanghamitra. According to accounts, she was born as the daughter of Ashoka of India during the 3rd century BCE and became a nun when she was 18 years old. After achieving liberation, she was invited to Sri Lanka to conduct the ordination of Queen Ayya and her retinue. Despite her father's reluctance, she traveled to Sri Lanka accompanied by several nuns and carrying a sapling of the famed Bodhi tree under which the Buddha attained enlightenment. By conducting the ordination of Anula and several hundred other women, she initiated the Bhikshuni Sangha in Sri Lanka. She is honored in Sri Lanka to this day, and Sanghamitra Day has become a national holiday. Imagine a national holiday dedicated to a Buddhist woman. Yay. Okay, just at the last of page 26, Buddhist ideals of leadership often entail breaking through boundaries in quiet ways. A classic example is Haechun Sinim, a Korean nun who deftly and unpretentiously came to national prominence in Korea. The daughter of a judge, she received a good education but witnessed unimaginable misery after the outbreak of the Korean War. Fleeing south, her experiences awakened her to the truth of suffering, taught by Buddha, and she made a decision to enter monastic life. She endured many hardships in the freezing cold before the meditation master Songchul agreed to teach a nun. We take many things for granted these days. After practicing Sun, or Zen, intensively for many years, she became a meditation master and guide for others, gaining renown for her diligence and determination. She has established Bohyeon Hermitage as the first Sun meditation center for nuns in Korea. In addition to her social welfare activities, Sinam led to create the Korean Sangha in 1985 and established a center with a meditation hall for 300 bhikshunis in 1992. She pioneered the participation of Korean nuns in the Sakadita conference in Thailand in 1991 and in Sri Lanka in 1993. For her passionate activities, she was recognized both by due process. In 1990, the party won an overwhelming majority in the national elections, but the military government refused to recognize the results. After living under house arrest for 13 of the past 20 years, she has maintained her Buddhist principles of nonviolence, continuing to call for dialogue and negotiation. In 1991, she was awarded the Zahovo Prize for Freedom of Thought, the Nobel Peace Prize. Her life is an expression of Buddhist values, sustained by teachings and meditation practice through years of confinement and disappointment. Has become an example for others as she dedicates her life to work compassionately and nonviolently for the good of her people, despite countless hardships. These women are a few examples of Buddhist women leaders who have helped nurture the intellectual, moral, and spiritual development of others. The results of this training are pragmatic and visible. A person who trains in ethics is less vulnerable to corruption. One who trains in mindfulness has more energy and focus and is therefore able to work more effectively. One who trains in love and compassion is more caring and attentive to the needs of others. A good person empathizes with the sufferings of others and feels compelled to do something about it. The antiquated notion that women cannot be leaders because they must take care of their families is becoming obsolete. Women in Buddhist societies are becoming more active in civil society and proving their excellence. Still, much work to do to achieve gender equity. Skipping over to page 28. Presenting exemplary women in early Buddhist history does not tell the whole story because it does not explain the absence of women from leadership roles Buddhist history. The exclusion of women from educational institutions is both the root cause and the expression of their subordinate society. Although women may enjoy greater freedom than their neighbors, they have not had equal access to the secular and religious knowledge fundamental to intellectual and spiritual development, and hence have not had equal access to leadership. This is no longer acceptable. Full inclusion is fundamental, and any analysis of women's potential for leadership in Buddhist institutions and society in the future must be in education. In spite of Buddhist recognition, thank you. In spite of Buddhist recognition that women are fully human and they're capable of achieving the highest spiritual goal in theory, even today, true gender equity remains elusive in many Buddhist cultures. Theory is not enough. Women require more. They need every opportunity to optimize their potential for awakening. If, as the Buddha taught, happiness and unhappiness depend on the quality of actions created in the present, then we must act now to ensure are free of constraints, psychological, social, educational, or otherwise, on their awakening. Liberated Buddhist women must be personally, spiritually, and socially liberating. At the bottom of page 29, the traditional models of leadership should not be overlooked or underestimated, however. Buddhist monastics have preserved a way of life that has guided human beings on the path of peace for millennia and still play significant roles today. Ordained nuns and monks, being free of family obligations, have plenty of time, both for spiritual practice and for benefiting society. The current movement to guarantee access to full for women signifies a new aspiration for equal leadership in Buddhist institutions. We have to clean up our own institutions if we talk about gender equity. Even if only a few to become nuns, achieving equal access to opportunities for monastic training and leadership is one measure of gender equity in society overall. Buddhist ladies are taking new leadership roles, and many are emerging as respected leaders and teachers, especially in Western societies. Wrapping up. Traditionally, Buddhist countries like Burma, Cambodia, China, India, Laos, Mongolia, Tibet, and Vietnam have faced devastating political upheavals in recent decades that have killed millions of people and rent the social fabric. Putting the pieces back together again and creating a more sane and peaceful world requires the efforts of all and men, lay and ordained. It requires special care and attention to women who have experienced trauma and loss or who have little faith in their own capabilities. If working for peace is a good thing, then having twice as many people working for peace is even better. For these reasons, Buddhists have nothing to lose and everything to gain by fostering women's leadership in the monastery, family, government, and place. Working together, creatively adapting the model of enlightened leadership that the Buddha taught, women are poised to significant roles in transforming Buddhist societies. By challenging our perceptions of women and realizing women to their highest human potential, Buddhist women have much to contribute to the spiritual dimension of global dialogue in helping create a new consciousness for a new era. Thank you.
Và tiếp theo là bài tham luận Nữ giới Phật giáo với vai trò lãnh đạo.
Nam mô释迦牟尼Phật. It's a great honor for me to be here in Vietnam in the 11th Sakadita Conference. As a Buddhist nun, I will limit my discussion to the monastic community of Taiwan. Compared to the world, Buddhists in Taiwan are treated with dignity and equality. Under favorable conditions, nuns in Taiwan have actively engaged in various fields of works, and they have received public recognition. Over the past 300 years, mainstream Buddhism in Taiwan was a form of lay Buddhism called Zai Jiao, often translated into English as vegetarian sect. Women renunciants in this sect kept their hair long, observed a vegetarian diet, and some observed the celibacy. They did not receive ordination, nor were required to uphold monastic precepts. In 1953, the first full ordination in Taiwan, officiated by senior monks from mainland China, was held in Daxian Temple in Tainan. Thus began the transmission of Bhikkhu and Bhikkhuni precepts in Taiwan. Since then, the number of monks and nuns have increased each year, and the Sangha came into being in the formal sense. In 1957, Xuanzhen, the abbess of Yitong Monastery, founded the Buddhist Nuns College, the beginning of our formal education for nuns in Taiwan. Over the ensuing half a century, Buddhist nuns in Taiwan have come to outnumber monks by approximately 3-to-1. Their actions in these areas have received public recognition in Taiwan. Some factors that have contributed to this flourishing are, first, the full ordination for monks and nuns that is held each year, and this tradition has come to be accepted and routine by all Buddhists in Taiwan. Second, the open-minded attitudes and support given by highly respected ordained masters have enhanced the development of the Sangha and education for nuns. Bhikkhu Inshun, renowned for Buddhist studies and research, replied to Bhikkhu Shenyan, the founder of Dhammadram Mountain, that to build a Sangha, we should not be overly concerned with the 8 special rules, the Guru Dharma, but should instead emphasize equality. In addition, Bhikkhu Shenyan wanted to see the formation of Bhikkhuni Sangha stand on its own in the future. Foreseeing the needs and trends of the modern world, these 2 masters clearly indicated the direction to go. In addition, the well-known Luminary Buddhist Institute for Nuns was established in 1980. The third, in order to spread and sustain the Buddhism, many monks and nuns devoted their efforts to establishing Buddhist schools and providing formal education, monastic education, and in 1957, Bhikkhu Baishen founded the Chinese Buddhist Tripitaka School. Bhikkhu Inshun founded the Hsinchu Buddhist Nun School. In 1990, the first accredited Buddhist college, Huafan College, was founded by Bhikkhuni Hu Wan, who is known in Chinese Xiao Yun. And in the past 50 years, there are tremendous growth and development in Taiwan Buddhism. The evolution of social environment. Beginning in the late 1950s, Buddhism was introduced in college campus, and some young people became monastics afterwards. And Buddhist organizations began to actively engage in the society, such as devoting themselves in carrying out the community work, providing aids and disaster relief, and infuse peaceful and stable energy to the society. Thus, Buddhism came to be perceived as a positive and peaceful force of Taiwanese society. The achievements of Buddhist nuns in Taiwan have been encouraging. First, they made many contributions in the field of education. Bhikkhuni Wu Yin in 1980 founded the Buddhist Institute for Nuns. Bhikkhuni Wu Shui in 1989 founded the Institute of Buddhist Studies. And Bhikkhu Xiaoyun in 1990 founded the Huafan College of Humanities and Technology. And Bhikkhuni Zhenyan in 1994 founded the Tzu Medical School. In other areas of Buddhist leadership, the first Bhikkhuni in Taiwan that earned a doctorate in Buddhist study, Bhikkhuni Henqing, dedicated her life to Buddhist education at various universities, of Digital Library of Buddhist Studies and C-Beta project. And Bhikkhuni Huiyan also taught at various universities and authored a number of books. Now, many Buddhist nuns have received doctorate degree and have careers in teaching, academic research, and study. In Buddhist art and architecture, Bhikkhuni Xiaoyun, renowned for her work in education, art, poetry, and meditation practice. And Bhikkhuni Kuan Qian, also known for her skills in architectures. In the work of charity and social service, Bhikkhuni Zhenyan, founder of the Tzu organization, which includes a medical school, a hospital, a bone marrow research center, actively engage in charity and disaster relief work around the world. And Bhikkhuni Zhao Hui, a Buddhist reformer, scholar, author, promotes animal rights. And Bhikkhuni Lian Chan provides spiritual guidance and fight for the welfare for the blind. There are other areas such as teaching Buddhism in community, high school, counseling, and leading retreats and teaching meditation practice, taking up the administrative responsibilities of managing Sangha and building monasteries, and caring for the illness at terminal stage. And to illustrate the impact that Buddhist nuns have had in Taiwan, I would like to profile the role of nuns at Dharma Drum Mountain, one of Taiwan's leading Buddhist organizations. The founder of the organization, Dharma Drum, is Master Shen Yan. His vision of building this organization is to uplift the character of humanity, build land on earth. Since the age of 13, he has a wish to share with people and transmit the Dharma to future generations. The Dharma Drum Sangha was founded in 1980, consisting a community of both monks and nuns, a Sangha that lives by precepts adapt to the modern world. Educate the Sangha members to have compassion and religious spirits. The Dharma Drum Sangha has made much growth from 3 people in 1980 and since then to nearly 200 people now. The roles of nuns and their contribution to the Sangha can be clearly known and seen from 2 aspects. First, Sangha education, and then the responsibilities they have been taken up. The Sangha education consists of two bodies. First is the Sangha University of formal academic education and the continuing education after graduation from the university. Sangha education including cultivation in 3 fields: Buddhist teaching, Chan meditation practice, and engagement in educational and social service and welfare work. There are 3 programs in Sangha University: a 2-year training program, 4-year Buddha studies program, and 6-year Chan practice program. Their curriculums are designed with a focus of 3 categories. The first, understanding the realization of the teaching, the Buddha's teachings of Shila steps, the teaching of meditation, concentration, and the teaching and cultivation of wisdom. Other than that, there are general studies such as Buddhist histories and computer science and technologies and the methods of practice. Meditation is very important to apply the method, the practice in our daily life. And in the cultivation of merit, during the summer and winter break, the students have internship at school or at various monasteries or in nonprofit foundations. Nurturing the team spirit and practice through work and learn through the interactions with other people. And in the outreach work, they learn to give lectures and planning, organizing, and implementing activities, engaging in the community service. Each year, they hold a youth camp for young people to experience a life in the monastery, to experience the life of monastic. And then also in cultivating monastic discipline and spirit. After number of years education at the Sangha University, the education continues on. The continuing education after graduation. There are three types of education. The first is advanced monastic training to continue to receive the training in ritual service, in Chan meditation practice, and assist in leading the retreats, and teaching Dharma, and learning to engage to carry out the social welfare and charity work. They're also training administrative jobs, receive the basic training for the work skills and knowledge. Every 1 to 3 years, our job get changed, get transferred, alternate to different departments, and depending on the importance of the job itself. And management training provided for those who held administrative positions. There are also independent study that every nun can apply for to receive higher education, either a master or doctor programs in Taiwan or in foreign countries. A self-study they can take on to further their understanding of the Buddhism, and they can apply for solitary retreat or practice at other centers. The nuns in Dharma Drum actually will have the learning opportunities and education throughout their whole life, because helping others and serving others is a learning and practice as well. And the responsibility that Dharma Drum nuns have taken, we can see it from the positions they hold. Dharma Drum Sangha of monks and nuns is under the leadership of the ever president, who is nominated and approved by the Sangha members. Positions that nuns hold include provost, who's the CEO of Dharma Drum, actually operated Dharma Drum organization, and there are several vice provosts in charge of many centers, vice chancellor of Buddhist College and Sangha University, and directors of branch monasteries. Overall, nuns outnumber monks by 4-1. The nuns at Dharma Drum perform majority of the work. And here's some picture. You can see the training that we receive and the life in the monasteries. In the end, I would like to review the history, the growth of the Dharma Drum, and that comes to this flourishing. The founder's vision to build a Sangha of monks and nuns in equality. He believes the equal right of nuns to receive education and cultivate practice. He believes the equal potential of nuns to become a Buddha. And their efforts made by senior monks and nuns in Taiwan, they have made great endeavors in building Sangha, providing Sangha education, establishing Buddhist institute, and spreading Buddhism. Not only the population of nuns increased, so does their education level. And also the entire monastic community, monks and nuns, their engagement in the society have earned them respect and appreciation from the society. In the end, I would like to reflect what's the quality, what makes one a leader, a true leader. Our teacher, the founder, has taught us to have a clear direction in life and moving forward steadfastly. A vision, a grand vision that benefits all beings and sustain Buddhism in the world. A long-term view, and bear in mind the interest for the entire Buddhism, not just for the local Buddhist circle, and for the world. The true leadership is not simply about ability, knowledge, or power. True leadership entails acting with wisdom and compassion, with the right thing to know, the right thing to do, the right way to go, and the right time to implement your plan. And compassion, the care and love for all, not just for a few. The wisdom and compassion are the fruition of our practice and hardship that we have endured and overcome. In the end, we complete our plan, our dreams, and also implement and perfect our practice. There's a lot of progress and development that women has done in the past, but there's still a long way to go. Go, Buddhist women, go, all together.
Thank you, Venerable. We need to pause for just a moment while the electricity is being checked.
Và tiếp theo sẽ là bài phát biểu tham luận với đề tài giúp cư sĩ tại gia tu tập và phát triển tâm linh.
you just inform us that we need a few minutes for the... It's okay? But can we continue now? Because the technician just informed us that we don't know. So, ladies and gentlemen, we can continue right now.
So it seems that we can continue now. So I am going to introduce our next speaker, Pori Park. She is an assistant professor of religious studies at Arizona State University. Her research has focused on the intersection between Buddhism, colonialism, modernity, nationalism, and globalization. She is going to give us a paper on the leadership of Bhikshuni Master Deheng. And the One Mind Center in South Korea. Welcome.
Thank you. As introduced, I'm going to talk about one of the most renowned nuns in South Korea called Deheng Snim. First, I'd like to thank the Vietnamese Sangha and the Bhikshuni Sangha in particular for hosting a huge event like this very successfully. Beginning in the mid-1980s, when the economy of South Korea began expanding at a rapid rate, urban mega temples appeared and met with unprecedented success in attracting members. Among these mega temples, Hammaum Sonon, One Mind Zen Center, stood out because it was the first of this kind, and most strikingly was built by a nun, Deheng, who was born in 1927. The center is located in Anyang near Seoul, the capital of South Korea, and has 15 domestic and 10 overseas branches with 100,000 lay followers. The center's success can be attributed to the charismatic leadership of Deheng. Deheng's charisma is seen in her legendary ascetic practices in the forests and in her supernatural abilities. Like the eminent Taiwanese nun Zheng Yan Fa-Shu of the Tzu Chi Foundation, about whom Professor Julia Huang talked about yesterday, Deheng is a self-made made nun who did not go through the unusual regimen of monastic training. It is believed that she was awakened while taking on ascetic practice in wild forests. While Zheng Yan is known through the Tzu Chi charitable work, Deheng became prominent as a spiritual teacher through guiding her monastic and lay followers. On the other hand, her unorthodox status creates a certain degree of controversy regarding the legitimacy of her teachings and her organization. On the other hand, this practice gives her the freedom to be creative and flexible in her teaching style. It is unusual for Bhikshuni to establish herself as a spiritual leader in Korea, where Confucian ideology still holds power over gender relationships, let alone to have huge following of intellectual males. Even more impressive, Deheng is the first Bhikshuni in modern Korea to have Bhikshu disciples. Deheng has dedicated her life to teaching lay people and has begun attracting a huge following of males and younger individuals. Her emphasis on daily practice and the belief in one's own nature as Buddha-like, in addition to her charismatic power, have caused the center to be a huge success in terms of conducting convergence in urban settings. Her popularity and success eventually led her to be accepted by the Joge order, the largest Buddhist order in Korea, although it took 10 years for the order for the center be registered by the Joge order. Daeheng's popularity comes from her spiritual potency in healing. She takes on others' pain, both physical and mental healing, and healing them without even touching them. As her reputation as a healer spread, people came in flocks. This frame eventually led her to establish the One Mind Center in 1972 and to begin her journey as a spiritual teacher. She teaches that everyone is endowed with a perfect nature, which is different from egoistic individual self. She calls the wholesome mind 주인공, literally means the master who is void. She believes that powers are none other than the manifestation of the perfect one mind. Daeheng thus teaches that each one of you, quote, each one of you should discover your fundamental mind, freely take care of everything, and enjoy a worthwhile life. This belief in one mind is a key to dealing with suffering, dukkha. While resolving others' problems, she realized that people have to learn how to deal with their own suffering rather than seeking temporary solution from others. She provides a simple solution. The answer lies within everybody. There's no need to look outside of oneself or go somewhere else. This is the perfect moment once one pays attention inwardly. She believes that whenever suffering arises, people should let go of it, delegate the solution to 주인공, the one mind. This, the total interest wholeness has been divided by the thought of I. The attachment idea of I, and thus being caught up in daily affairs with a self-centered attitude. She calls this observing, can you hear? Okay. The source of suffering is the attachment to the idea of I, thus being caught up with daily affairs with a self-centered attitude. She calls this interesting kwan observing, which is the antithesis of karmic retribution. Accruing karma entails the dualistic concept of I versus non-I, which belongs to cognitive thinking. By releasing whatever comes to 주인공 and letting 주인공 find the solution, one becomes less reactive. She calls this, quote, doing without the thought of doing, unquote. By being open to the infinite ocean, which is 주인공, one transcends the divisive world of thought, which she regards as the realm of karma. She contrasts life habits of karma with the life of observing, entrusting, the continuous letting go of everything that one faces physically and mentally to the foundation, which will melt down everything, will heal all the suffering. With a conscious and persistent practice of kwan, observing, she claims that everyone will finally be in charge of his or her life and be free from karmic retributions. The drastic and consistent letting go prevents people from falling into a conceptual and reactive trap that leads to suffering, and the total entrusting to the foundation rescues people from experiencing nihilism.
In this way, Daeheng developed her own recipe, drawing from early Buddhist teachings of drastic detachment and later from the Mahayana teachings on Tathagata for the concept of 주인공. She then applies these teachings to a daily cultivation tactic, the Gwan meditation. The Gwan practice is similar to Vipassana meditation in that it emphasizes awareness, not being swept away by the currents of life. However, it also differs from by entrusting everything to the foundation, 주인공. The latter aspect is akin to the sun, Zen emphasis on the Buddha nature that directly functioning in daily lives. Yet Daeheng never used any kungan or hato for teaching lay people. Instead, she emphasized the persistent practice of Gwan. Daeheng said that everyday life is the perfect place to practice, and she shows how to handle emotions, difficulties, and illness. In the midst of everyday life, one can use daily issues or difficulties as Gwan. One should treat every single moment as Hwadu. She further believes that one needs to be mentally awake on a constant basis to entrust everything immediately to the whole, which is 주인공. One needs to release all emotions and difficulties to it rather than being caught up with deluded thoughts. She emphasizes that one should keep letting go of whatever comes to the mind until the practice of releasing becomes second nature. Her life appeal to lay people is the way in which she guides them. Her teachings give people easy and concrete solutions to their own problems. Being easily swept by the strong currents of life, they find ways to see how things can be viewed or handled by the simple act of letting go and entrusting. Their life can be less discursive and reactive, but they can live wholeheartedly each moment. The effectiveness of her teachings comes from her own spiritual depth and competence in guiding others' spiritual cultivation. She uses everyday language to get her message across. Her Dharma talks are usually attended by thousands of people and are always accompanied by a question and answer session, which is rare for the most Dharma talks in Korea. She is famous for her teaching style using face-to-face consultation and teaching through answering of questions. The last part about the emphasis on compassion. By believing in the foundation 주인공, Daeheng demonstrates hope for the eradication of suffering. The foundation is the universal mind that everyone has. Through it, all beings are thus connected. Instead of regarding 주인공 as an individual center, Daeheng emphasized the concept of one mind, through which everyone and everything are interconnected. All realms and universes are connected together through the same fundamental mind. Thus, everything shares same body, same life, works together as one, and shares all things together. Ultimately, everything and everyone in the universe are harmoniously living together, sharing the same roots. She reiterates that, quote, all beings are one mind, one family, one community, and one universe, unquote. Thus, sympathy, sharing, and loving all come from this universal mind. With this realization of interconnectedness, people can eventually free themselves from the bondage of ego and thus the web of suffering. I'm going to talk a little bit briefly about the One Mind Zen Center, which Daeheng established in 1972. Over the past 38 years, the center has expanded into 15 domestic branches and 10 overseas centers, including centers in the US, Canada, Germany, Argentina, and Thailand. She has made her own system of institutions which attracts people from all walks of life. Since I just have 2 minutes left, I'll be okay. The One Mind Center is also a pioneer in creating, operating online sites, and organizing the high-tech management and operation of Dharma talks and meetings. Since 1994, it has been operating a leading weekly Buddhist newspapers and also engaging in a lot of translations of Deheng and also publications on Buddhism. In conclusion, Deheng's unprecedented success in urban mission is largely due to her own spiritual charisma and her remapping of gender relationships in the Korean Buddhist world. For the first time in the history of Korean Buddhism, probably in the history of Buddhism in general, a woman has become an official teacher of bhikshu disciples. By emerging as a competent and celebrated teacher for lay people and intellectuals in particular, her teachings have ultimately become legitimized through the official acceptance of her institution by the Joge order. Deheng uses simple yet assertive methods and the language to train lay people to guide their own life. With her spiritual authority, she enables people to have faith in themselves. She claims that everything is within. There is no need to seek from outside. She makes people peaceful here and now. Deheng's spiritual power, which came her years of ascetic cultivation, coupled with her courage and creative efforts to train people, have made her legendary even during her lifetime. Because of her advanced age, however, for the last few years, the One Mind Center have been using videotapes of her Dharma talks instead of live lectures. It will be challenging for the centers to maintain the same vigor and passion among the members. Thank you.
I'm so sorry. It's my job. Thank you very much. We have two more speakers on the panel. Next, I introduce Patricia Galaxy. Patricia is currently an educator and facilitator in post-secondary education at the Justice Institute of British Columbia's Center for Leadership in Vancouver. She is going to give a paper on Dharma in action, learning leadership through the Dharma.
Thank you for the introduction beforehand, but we suggest that we take a break for 15 minutes.
No, we can't. Unfortunately, we can't break. We're going to do these two talks quickly,
Okay.
and then we're into small discussion groups. I'm really sorry.
Okay, that's fine. If we don't take a break, that's fine. But anyway, the technician need to do some major adjustment to the power because we're afraid that it will interrupt our lecture session.
Can the technician do the adjustment after the two papers are finished?
Okay.
Just 50 more minutes?
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Okay, let me tell the organizers. Yeah.
Xin quý vị thông cảm bởi vì nguồn điện đang bị có vấn đề cần phải điều chỉnh. Do vậy chúng ta xin cảm ơn.
So I invite Patricia to give her paper now. Go ahead, Patricia. It's an honor
Can you hear me? Tonight here, Namo Anidafa. I want a moment to explain that the leadership that I'm talking about today has to do with the lay practice. Can you hear me? No. Yeah. Within the Western organizations and
Và
communities,
theo yêu cầu thì chúng ta sẽ
leadership within a Buddha.
đổ cho 20 phút nữa và sau đó thì sẽ giải lao hoàn toàn.
The Buddha said, by efforts, waken yourself. You can't
Ladies
hear?
and gentlemen, we just continue for 20 more minutes. We just continue for 20 more minutes.
Okay.
So everybody just stay and we continue our session and we finish our session for the morning for the next 20 minutes. Thank you.
Okay. The Buddha said, by efforts, wake yourself. Walk joy, follow through the way, reflect upon it, and make it your own. Live it. Historical Western modern leadership have not accepted the truth of free inquiry that the Buddha means. Indeed, traditional modern leadership have depended primarily upon the very methods that the Buddha called. The Buddha said, what was acquired by repeated hearing, nor upon tradition, nor upon scripture, nor upon surmise, nor upon another's seeming ability. Having not learning, traditional leadership models are predominantly male, driven by ideology, and founded on the premise that life can be systematically predicted and controlled through the exclusive power and knowledge of the leader. In response to the realities of the natural world, however, this military leadership as command and control is collapsing. What is emerging in its wake is a new model of leadership, one that more closely resembles the Buddha Dharma. In contrast to its predecessor, this contemporary model of leadership embodies a more feminine approach, one that is collective, created in response to the changing nature of all things, and founded on the premise that life is a mystery to be embraced with wisdom and compassion. This model depends upon the individual's own need to pay careful and sustained attention to moment-to-moment experience, demanding that understanding emerges from lived practice rather than from any external independent source. As a leadership educator in Vancouver, Canada, I rely upon this more recent model to engage organizations, communities, groups, and individuals in the process of finding the best solutions for working and living together. My experience as a laywoman and as one who has taken refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha shows the Buddha Dharma is concerned with the same process. Being at this conference, I see clearly that another way is possible. New models of leadership are more characteristically feminine in that they rely on creating shared experiences of inquiry into universal truths, allowing collective wisdom and compassion, and therefore skillful action and wise leadership to emerge from the inner experience of each individual's truth in any given moment. In this model, the leader is not holding a position or controlling an outcome. The leader is not separate from the group, but instead is a participant in a co-creative and emergent process of knowing. Guiding students in understanding the teachings of the Buddha, Thai Master Ajahn Chah wisdom. First one learns the Dharma but does not yet understand it. Then one understands but has not yet practiced. One practices but has not yet seen the truth of the Dharma. Then one sees the Dharma, but one's being has not yet become Dharma. Undoubtedly, the Western leadership culture has been marked by a predominance of ego and an absence of teachers who have become Dharma. The newly emerging model recognizes in part the failings of contemporary culture. This new model of leadership seeks liberation from suffering together by carefully and collectively attending to our inner and outer experience, by inquiring together into what is ego and what is truth, and by investigating together how the teachings on universal truth relate to our own personal experience. This model does not deny the benefit that could be gained by practicing and learning in the presence of enlightened leaders and teachers, but rather responds to the reality that few truly enlightened teachers and leaders exist in the modern Western world.
The complexity and urgency of challenges and crises abound in our world, demand a novel, skillful leadership response, one that acknowledges, as did Albert Einstein, that we cannot solve problems with the same consciousness that created them, one that depends upon the development of each being's highest potential. Leadership like the Dharma depends on upaya. It depends upon bringing out the highest potentialities of different people by adjusting to their needs and adapting to their capacity for comprehension. Just as the Bodhisattva Avalokiteshvara is described in the Lotus Sutra as changing form to meet the needs of students, contemporary leaders must take many forms to invite others into the practice of self-reflection and an inquiry of what is universally true in each individual's practical and personal experience. One way that I practice upaya in learning leadership is through directing a group's focus away from automatic and reactive habit of giving and receiving answers toward the more contemplative and collective practice of asking and holding questions. The questions that we ask shape our thoughts and create our reality. As the Buddha said, we are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts, and with our thoughts we make the world. Regardless of the topic, often just asking the question, what is true in this moment, directs attention inward and begins a contemplative practice that glimpses our habitual patterns of clinging and thinking. Peter Senge, who's a director in the United States of Society for Organizational Learning, uses secular language of mental models to describe how the mind creates the world that we perceive. Using this framework, Senge directs leaders to investigate their individual mental models. Through direct and sustained attention inward, a shared understanding begins to emerge. We treat our thoughts as reality, but they are constructed and impermanent interpretation. When inviting groups into the process of dialogue, leaders can invite individuals to hold questions of what is true in any given moment and encourage them to inquire into their mental models. When we are in conversation together, we are all practicing together. We become aware of our judgments, biases, and assumptions, and we become aware of the limiting patterns of mind. To guide this process of exploring mental models, we can draw upon the teachings from the Satipatthana Sutta and invite individuals to engage in sustained inquiry throughout the conversation by noticing internal and changing responses to what is happening externally. As we begin to share the results of our observations through dialogue, we cannot help but gain insight into the truths of impermanence and interdependence. Sharing our personal experiences, we discover together that our mental models and our internal responses are not so dissimilar. We discover that the intimate thoughts that we believed were exclusively ours and independently real are in fact part of a conditioned reality that arises, dwells momentarily, and passes away. We begin to experience that we are, as the Buddha said, not separate, but interdependent. In this freedom from attachment to self, however brief and tentative, we begin to glimpse no self. We develop these insights through dialogue, not because we're studying the Buddha Dharma per se, but because they accord with our own experience and therefore arise naturally when we pay careful and sustained attention to the present moment. Learning leadership in this way is an invitation to continuous and careful attention to both our inner and outer realities. It is an invitation to turn toward life fully and skillfully again and again, to experience and understand the nature and cause of suffering, to recognize limiting patterns, and to choose a new way of living with wisdom and compassion, and then to share that new way in service of others. Each practice of this new leadership model depends upon inviting participants into contemplative and reflective practices that derive from the experience of self-knowledge. These emergent leadership practices reflect, in part, the concept of upaya, emphasizing that practitioners may use their own specific methods to alleviate suffering and introduce others to the Dharma. As the Buddha advised, by your own efforts waken yourself, watch and live joyfully, follow the truth of the way, reflect upon it, make it your own, live it. In contrast to the historical Western model of leadership, I am hopeful that a new model is emerging, one that more closely reflects the Buddha Dharma. This new model is collective. It's created in response to the changing nature of all things, and it is founded on the premise that life is a mystery to be embraced with wisdom and compassion. This new way forward into leadership is a means to discover the highest potential in ourselves and in others. It directs away from the models of the past, which have historically used direction and control, toward our own moment-to-moment experience, to enjoy together the universal truths of the Dharma, and in the words of the Buddha, to be a lamp unto ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Patricia. One more.
My talk is going to be on the virtue of patience. For more than 30 years, I have been greatly blessed to study under the thorough guidance of many highly respected bhikkhus and bhikkhunis, pondering the essential teachings that these great masters have compassionately transmitted to me. I recognize that they all exude the fragrance of liberation and have great practical value for my study and practice on the path. However, I particularly appreciate the teaching on patience since I have practiced it quite diligently and obtained immense benefits. The virtue of patience is one of the 6 paramatas that bodhisattvas must practice and perfect on their path to supreme and perfect enlightenment. Therefore, I would like to share my knowledge and experience of this virtue.
The word patience written in Chinese includes the word knife above the word mind. This can be understood to mean that patience causes people to feel pain, and if stabbed in the heart by a knife, this is a worthy patient and force people to undergo pain to the point of being humiliated. This type of patient of Buddhism teaches is totally different from worldly patience. Buddhist patient forbearance denotes accepting all humiliation, false accusation, assaults, and oppression without getting angry and reacting with violence against the opponent. The person being humiliated and harmed remains serene and controlled. There are 3 stages. The first stage of the patient is the patient with sentient being.
To practice patience with sentient beings, we must remain at peace when faced with angers, insults, or assaults. With the utmost merit and wisdom, the Buddha and Bodhisattvas have achieved this patience in a very simple manner. The more cruel people become, the more the Buddha and the Bodhisattvas extend their compassion to them. How can lay people such as ourselves practice this kind of patience? The Buddha taught that we should be aware that in this contaminated Sangha world, full of the 5 disturbances, everything exists in dualistically. Thus, when we follow the Buddha's teaching and try to live an exemplary life of a Buddhist, we will surely find ourselves confronted by bad people, since our good deeds threaten the interests of those who are evil. We cannot avoid this.
Of course, we cannot be patient with everyone and every evil deed right away in order to achieve patience with the sentient being. However, when we begin to follow the Buddha path, we can strive to have patience with some bad people and some bad deeds, at least to some extent. Of course, there is no better way to develop patience than to generate compassion and take all the harms people to us with ease. In order to achieve this, we must try to discover the best and most lovable characteristics these people pose, so that when